Welcome to Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show recorded live every Friday, where we recap the top events of the week and talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. Let's get started.
Content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, or company. We encourage you to conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Good for Bitcoin. My name is Brandon, social media manager here at Trust Machines, joined by my co-host and community lead, Kate. Happy Friday, Kate.
Happy Friday, Brandon. Happy Friday, everybody tuning in. Hope you guys had a good week so far.
Yeah, good week. Bitcoin's at new all-time highs, which is always, a good thing, I guess. I do feel like, though, I was going to ask you, why do you feel like Bitcoin Twitter is so apathetic on new all-time highs lately?
I honestly just think people think this isn't going to be the biggest high of the year. So it's kind of I feel like people have been waiting for Bitcoin to pump a little bit, and it happened. But I think people think okay, but it's going to go a lot higher. I mean, we have CEOs saying it's going to reach 800,000 by the end of the year. And so that's an insane difference to where we are now. Also, I just think people are kind of maybe in hodl mode. And the price it's not really going to determine what they do or don't do. So I don't know. That's kind of how I feel. It's oh, cool. New all-time high, but it doesn't really feel monumental to me.
Yeah. Did you say 800,000?
I am pretty sure.
Who says that? Who said that? That's crazy.
I think it was BlackRock CEO. Is it Larry? What's his name? Is it Larry
Fink?
I'm pretty sure he said 800,000 by the end of the year.
Bold.
Do not quote me.
Bold prediction. I don't know if that's true.
I know.
But that sounds, too good to be true.
Yeah. I've also heard maybe, I don't know if it was Sailor. Someone said 400,000 end of the year. Maybe that was Udi. I don't know, actually. There's so many price predictions that get thrown out. I'm sure, I'll take it. But yeah, I don't know. I think people are just, I don't know, maybe we're just kind of tired of the all-time high price hype and we're just in building mode, really.
Yeah. The consensus is that we're going higher.
Yeah.
Is what,
exactly.
what it seems like.
Yeah. I'll find the 800,000 and see if that's true. Maybe that was just
we gotta
a clickbait
fact check
headline.
that. That's
yeah.
Maybe you dreamed that.
Sounds like something I would dream.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of we missed last week, 4th of July. It feels like such a long time ago.
I know.
Which is
honestly
funny. This is technically our first show of July. Just crazy. So lots to recap. We're going to recap some stuff that happened last week. We're going to recap some stuff that happened this week. So it's going to be a pretty packed show. We first are going to get into, I think, a couple announcements on the Trust Machine side, more specifically with Granite. I'm going to share my screen so we can see those things. First one is really big news. Yeah, community liquidations live on Granite. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So community liquidations is basically anybody can come in to Granite, connect their Stacks Bitcoin wallet and liquidate any positions that are at risk on the protocol. It's so cool because traditionally in DeFi protocols, this is reserved for bots or really institutional investors who are able to always be monitoring these positions. But we really just opened up access for anybody to come in and buy Bitcoin at a discount. So if you are liquidating someone else's position, you're basically getting a Bitcoin at a 10% discount, which is pretty cool. Obviously, it keeps the protocol healthy, opts for more decentralization. And something that you and I have talked about when we're, trying to communicate this to people is obviously on the other end of that spectrum is someone getting liquidated, which is never ideal. But I think this is honestly the most open, transparent, decentralized way to do this. So it really is within the Bitcoin ethos to allow liquidations to happen like this.
Yeah, it's for a lot of other lending platforms that are on, doing this type of DeFi Bitcoin lending activity. You might be able to liquidate maybe on the smart contract side, but the front end of these apps maybe don't have it front and center where anybody can go in, you can go to the liquidate tab, you can see the open positions, you can liquidate any that are liquidatable. To have that UI available is really cool. So anybody, literally anybody, can go on and do it, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
nobody wants to get liquidated, but
No.
at least if you are getting liquidated, you're not getting 50 to 100% of your entire position liquidated, like pretty much every other lending platform out there. So there's a silver lining, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So to check it out, you go to granite.world, launch our app, and there's a liquidate tab. At the moment, there's not any positions available for liquidation.
Yeah, Bitcoin's going up too much.
Yeah,
Nobody's
I
getting
know.
liquidated right now.
People are getting their loans cleared, really.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. If anything, you could borrow more. Yeah. Other Granite news, we announced the Granite Creator Program winners, which was really exciting. We had so many people, it says here, out of 166 total submissions. So many people were just really engaged with this, submitting all types of different content, which was also really fun. We kind of initially, when we announced the program for June, we made the call like, we want to see memes, we want to see threads, we want to see videos, like whatever content you want to make, we want to see that. And just looking at all 10 winners, just a really great variety of content that ended up winning. So really fun.
Yeah, there were some cool videos in there, and you did such a good job at recapping sort of why we chose each one, which I think helps people when we launch the next cohort to understand, what makes it really valuable and helpful for other people to learn from your content. So, job well done to you.
Yeah, I think it's like important to make sure that we're giving like that type of feedback. Like, these creators are, dedicating their time and resources and energy to create this stuff. It's like only fair for us to do the same and provide like some valuable feedback back to them.
Exactly.
One thing that was also really cool is the way that we designed the program was that we opened it up so people could submit content multiple times. They could submit multiple pieces of content, and each piece of content was sort of judged individually. So it wasn't like, the more you submit, the higher chance you have of winning.
Yeah.
But what we saw with some people was like their content got better over time, which was really cool. I think there was one of the last examples here was, John D. Like I think on second to last day of the campaign, he had submitted multiple posts, but it was like the second to last day of the campaign, he submitted this one that was like really well written, really well done. So it was just a good example of like hard work pays off, and the iteration definitely was nice to have. And everybody that contributed received this stonemason NFT, which is also just a really fun, incentive to participate. So even if you didn't win, you still got an NFT. And looking on Gamma right now, nobody has listed it for sale, so everyone is diamond handing, but 55 owners of that NFT. So 55 people participated out of 66 total submissions. So everybody submitted kind of multiple times, which is really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, we'll be excited to launch the next sort of round of this. We are gathering feedback from people who have participated about, what is the best incentive for them? What's the best process for them? So we're kind of taking that into account before we launch the next wave.
Yep. We'll be relaunching. Stay tuned. I'm very excited to resume that. Partially, we haven't launched it yet because the two of us have been also very busy with all the Zeely stuff that's been happening on the official Stacks account. We have been contributing a lot to that program and collaborating with just all these different apps. I think this sprint in particular that started on Wednesday is we had like the most apps participating in this one. We didn't have Granite or Velar in Sprint 1, so now we have pretty much everybody in there. So far so good as well. It's been going really great. And I think in the past like 24 hours, there was like over 10,000 quests that were claimed, which is just a crazy number. So there's a lot of people that are in there claiming quests and hammering everybody's APIs, and and things are going relatively smoothly. Good job to all the apps that are participating, and cool to have Granite in there as well. Now people can go check out Granite, and Leather obviously is already in there for people using all these apps. You got to have a wallet, right? So we have Leather and Xverse as well as in there as well. But it's been fun so far.
Fun so far. All right. Tell us who's buying Bitcoin this week.
Yeah, maybe we should like ping pong like back and forth on all of these companies.
Totally. Yeah.
Rapid fire, because there's so many that we need to get caught up on. So
yeah.
Strategy bought 4,980 Bitcoin last week. Did not buy any this week, though.
Okay. Then we have Metaplanet. They acquired another 2,205 Bitcoin, which brings their total to 15,555. That's some like astrology, numerology.
5.
Yeah. That's
we
some
gotta
good
get
vibes.
Aaron in here.
Yeah, I know. What does this mean? Yeah.
That's a large number, but I thought that Metaplanet had like way more for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, that's obviously a lot of Bitcoin.
Yeah. I remember we talked about a couple weeks ago that they had passed, like with a recent purchase they made, they passed Coinbase, and Coinbase was at like 9,000. But what their end goal is is it 210,000 or 21,000? I think they have they have different numbers that they're trying to acquire.
I mean, everybody is just trying to acquire as much as they can.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's probably both.
Yeah.
Both numbers. Semler Scientific bought $20 million worth of BTC. They now hold 4,636 Bitcoin.
Then we have Murano. They are announcing their intent to buy up to $500 million worth of Bitcoin, and they already own 21.
Yeah, they're another public company. I didn't do the research into see what random thing that they're doing, but
yeah.
Another public company in the US buying Bitcoin.
Love it.
Reserve One plans to launch a Bitcoin reserve following a SPAC with M3 Brigade Acquisition V Corp. So we have another SPAC into Bitcoin treasury happening.
Love that. And then we have DDC Enterprise closing a $528 million raise to buy Bitcoin.
We talked about them a couple weeks ago that they were like starting that raise. So they closed it. So they will seemingly be buying that much Bitcoin very soon. This is a big one. Figma filed to go public and also revealed in their filings that they are currently holding $70 million worth of Bitcoin ETFs. Quote from their kind of, I don't know if it's like their S1 or S4 or whatever number it is, but in their filings, it was said on May 8th, 2025, their board of directors approved an investment of $30 million in Bitcoin. Subsequently, they also purchased $30 million in USDC and intend to reinvest their stablecoin holdings into Bitcoin at a later date. So they will be also buying another $30 million of Bitcoin sometime here in the future.
That one's pretty cool. It's sort of like they weren't really announcing it until they are trying to go public, really. Like that's the way it unfolded, right?
Yeah, it's almost like, and they also didn't really make a big deal about it. They kind of like have to say this because they have it, but they didn't come out with some press release saying like, we're a Bitcoin company now, like everybody else is doing. It wasn't like a big marketing push for them. It was just like, yeah, we have Bitcoin because we're trying to protect against inflation, and it makes total sense. It really makes you wonder like how many like companies similar in size to Figma that are still like private companies are doing this, but they just don't have to tell anybody because they're not public companies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. One that we've been talking about a lot, Cantor Equity Partners and 21 Capital. They finally announced their filing of the Form S4, which brings them one step closer to finalizing this merger, this highly anticipated merger.
Yeah, 21. That'll be cool. That's the Jack Mallers company. One thing that's been interesting is like with 21 and I believe with Nakamoto and a few of these others, they've sort of announced that they're filing, but they can't actively buy Bitcoin for these funds yet until the mergers have gone through. So they have sort of like an initial funding that maybe has already happened, but they can't like in between then and now, they can't actually buy more Bitcoin. So, the closer that they can get to actually finalizing that merger, the sooner that they can actually start executing on buying Bitcoin and growing their treasury. This is a tweet from Manib, actually from the other day. I thought it was a good way to close out our public company news section. He was at a conference and he tweeted, the alpha from the Selene Summit is that the Bitcoin treasury companies are the new ICOs. Most will flop, but some will be massively successful. Largest bid right now is for wrapped Bitcoin / crypto listed as securities on TradFi. Who would have thought? I agree.
This is a pretty cool pretty cool way to think about it. Because like during the ICO, it was basically a bunch of companies launching tokens saying like, we're going to provide future utility. They never did. And now it's a bunch of companies putting Bitcoin on their balance sheets saying like, we're going to be the next like Bitcoin reserve. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to some will do this responsibly and become like these financial giants. But in a way, like their companies still need to be successful even without Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Bitcoin just like explodes that because, you know, ideally over time the price is going up. But if you're just using Bitcoin to like hide your weaknesses, your business is still probably going to fail.
Yeah, and you know, it depends on, you know, whether you use leverage to buy this Bitcoin or not, right? We could see another deleveraging like we saw that was like crazy in 2021, a time of Bitcoin. So yeah, not all companies will succeed at it. And if they don't succeed at it, those companies might be forced to sell all the Bitcoin that they have, which, you know, that could kick off sort of the next kind of bear market of Bitcoin if that happens. We'll see. Hopefully Saylor just buys it all.
I'm sure he will.
But then there's also like that saying, like, don't catch like a falling knife or whatever. But I don't know. We'll see. Wanted to also highlight some updates to Bitcoin Layers. It's funny. I'm actually looking at Bitcoin Layers website, and there's been like some updates to the site since I was on here just like the other day. So they've been doing some work. Shout out to them. But it is no longer June. The delisting has completed on bitcoinlayers.org. So now if you go to Bitcoin Layers, if you look at their side systems tab, Stacks is now at the top based on sort of how much Bitcoin is pegged in. It's curious also, like they don't even like list the pegged in number here anymore like they did just the other day. Man, they've made a lot of changes on here. The one thing that's really interesting though to point out is there's only one green circle here out of every other side system that's listed here, and that's with Stacks, and that's because of that Bitcoin finality. So it's sort of been verified by the Bitcoin Layers team that Stacks does truly have 100% Bitcoin finality. And yeah, these state transitions are validated and finalized by stackers. Block leaders must build on the latest checkpoint included in the last block tenure that was validated by stackers. So you have 100% Bitcoin finality with that. So pretty cool stuff.
What happens on Stacks stays on Bitcoin. It's real.
There you go.
It's pretty cool. I mean, ever since I joined Stacks, which has been almost a year now, there's kind of been this continuous progression, like, you know, from the core team building aspects of Stacks, and it's getting recognized that, you know, we're really building the place where like true Bitcoin DeFi can take place. And, you know, with the new SIP that's likely going to go through, and the roadmap that was proposed, like there's really this push for like true self-custodial Bitcoin. You're in full control when you're engaging on the Stacks ecosystem. And it's just like, yeah, it's a cool thing to see. And I just hope this momentum does continue and we do become the true Bitcoin DeFi utility layer.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice, refreshing like perspective that like Stacks in general has, which is like, it's trying to be realistic about what can be done on Bitcoin today, right? Today, you don't have all these crazy opcodes to actually have like a true like layer 2 on Bitcoin. We're doing, you know, Stacks is doing what it can to have Bitcoin finality and try to align as closely with Bitcoin as possible. Yeah, and it's looking at things like being able to have like self-custodial SBTC bridge, where even if like the Stacks network were to fail, right, you would still be able to take out your underlying Bitcoin that was bridged in. And just, you know, looking at things like BitVM in the future to, you know, also have that be an option, and just being open to, you know, new technologies to make it closer and closer and closer to being fully decentralized and fully permissionless, just like Bitcoin is. But also just being realistic in that you can't have a fully decentralized, fully permissionless, fully everything layer 2 currently. So I think Stacks strikes a really good balance between those. Yeah. Next up is, that's interesting, Kazakhstan is eyeing a Bitcoin reserve. So the National Bank of Kazakhstan's governor says that they're working to establish a Bitcoin and crypto reserve. They're currently engaging with parliament to prepare necessary legal framework. Kazakhstan Kazakhstan briefly held 18% of the global Bitcoin mining power before regulatory crackdowns reduced this to 4% by 2023, which is another anecdote. So they used to be a little bit more involved in Bitcoin maybe than they are now, but it seems like they might be getting back into it in a different way.
It's interesting. I heard that they might also be kind of adopting one of those crypto city frameworks where you can just pay for everything with crypto, which is kind of cool to see.
That is pretty cool. Hopefully we get those in the US eventually. People are trying. Certain states.
Yeah.
I know there was like the big beautiful bill that passed recently in the US. It's like crazy that that's like the actual name, like not an unofficial name. And there was a chance that in the bill there would have been something for if you make like a payment in crypto, you don't have to pay taxes up to a certain like dollar amount, but it didn't end up getting included. So we were actually pretty close in the US to not being taxed on buying coffee with Bitcoin. Could have happened.
Could have had
but
it
it
all.
didn't. So we'll just keep holding, I guess. That's fine. I'm happy to keep holding. Big announcement on the Stacks side. Wormhole announced their integration with Stacks. So Wormhole is a leading interoperability protocol that enables cross-chain transfer. STX and SBTC will be flowing now through Wormhole's native token transfers, or NTT standard, to support integrations with Solana and Sui, which we have previously talked about. So that's how it's going to get through, is through Wormhole. And then, generally, all these cross-chain moves are designed to just make it easier for users on other chains to come into Stacks, to onboard, and also just to generally boost liquidity in the system. So good stuff.
Yeah, awesome to see. It would be really cool to see like how much flows between the two chains using these bridges. I'm not sure how that data would get pulled, but that would be pretty eye-opening to see that.
Yeah, I mean, mostly because it doesn't like do a lot with Bitcoin. I haven't really used Wormhole too much, but I would imagine that they have like all these crazy Dune dashboards and stuff that are looking at all this on-chain data. So I'm sure we'll be able to get that type of information and track it on the show in the future.
Let the Bitcoins flow.
Yeah. You put this one in here, on
this one's
SVB
pretty cool.
competitor successor. I don't know how to describe it.
So Peter Thiel, Palmer Luckey, and Joe Lonsdale, they're kind of teaming up and creating this bank called Erebor from Lord of the Rings. And it's kind of filling the gap where Silicon Valley Bank, when it collapsed, there was like this big gap that startups and crypto companies no longer really had a bank that they could go to. So they're going to be the new bank that fills this role. They want to be like a major lender for early stage startups and other riskier firms. So obviously crypto companies would fall under that. A lot of these companies struggle to get access to capital with tighter banking regulations, and they want to fill that gap. It'll be cool, interesting to see how this one plays out. Obviously with Silicon Valley Bank, there was kind of like a bank run after there was some interest rate hikes and the value of their bonds decreased, and there was quite a catastrophic outfall from that. I think there was a lot of politics involved in it, but basically, Peter Thiel is here to save the day.
I'm gonna drop a thing that's probably gonna make you. I've never seen any of the Lord of the Rings movies.
That shocks me.
So I'm like, Erebor, I don't even know what that is.
Okay, I put this in here. So Erebor, it's like cautionary tale about unchecked greed and power, and then they're coming in being like, we're launching Erebor, the bank.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. That's funny because I think Peter Thiel and Joe Lonsdale, they're like the co-founders of Palantir, which is also a Lord of the Rings reference. I think it's like this orb ball. I've only watched, I think, the first movie of Lord of the Rings, so I'm not like super down the rabbit hole in that, but I don't know. It should be pretty cool. I mean, those are some huge names to be coming in and launching something like this, so.
Yeah, it is very cool. I also wonder though, like how this would have been cool if they launched like 1 year ago, but I feel like regulation has made it so that it is much easier for regular banks to have like these types of like quote unquote riskier customers, because all these clauses and guidances on reputational risk and everything, all that stuff has been removed now. So I wonder how necessary it is. I think we've talked about it on the show, or maybe I'm thinking of like another podcast that I've listened to also, which is like there's in the US, there's not a lot of new banks that get started anymore, which is like kind of curious. So it's great, obviously more banks, more competition, that's all great. But yeah, the other side of me is thinking like, yeah, how necessary is it to have a bank that is specializing in these types of customers when you shouldn't have to specialize in these types of customers? They're just any other banking customer right now. But yeah, cool. Nonetheless, we'll see how that goes. Are they also going to be in Silicon Valley? Did you see that?
I am not sure. Actually, no, they're going to be in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just really switch it up. A stable Ohio.
Yeah.
The next one I put in here, I just thought was kind of cool. Jack Dorsey. I don't think he launched it yet, but he's like talking about this messaging app called BitChat. And it's basically just like a completely off-grid, no cell service or Wi-Fi is required. And it's basically like Bluetooth messages that you can send to someone within a 300-meter range of you. So think places like, I don't know, concerts or crowded events, conferences, remote areas, or like times of emergency when access to internet is shut down. It could be pretty useful. It obviously like kind of aligns with the Bitcoin ethos because, companies or governments can't shut it down. If you're within range of someone, the messages can't be intercepted. So he launched that, but there's also been, I found this other example or there's this thing called offline protocol, and they're trying to build this ecosystem of offline applications. And so they already launched a messaging app called Fernway. So it's basically,
is that another Lord of the Rings reference?
I don't know. When I look at how to pronounce this, I'm like, Fernway. I'm not really sure. I don't think it's Lord of the Rings though. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of cool. There's like this off-grid, offline sort of ecosystem getting developed. I'm sure it's been around for a while, but it's just getting talked about at the moment. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I downloaded Fernway just to see how it works, but I don't have anyone close to me who I can talk to.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, you have to have like, I guess, little communities maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, just your neighbors or something. You can message them. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, isn't that kind of what like Helium Network is kind of doing, right?
Yeah.
Where you have like a mesh network.
Exactly.
So kind of similar a little bit to that. That's interesting. Yeah. I think, I don't know if this is like a Bitcoiner thing or if this is just like a me thing, but I feel like generally with most technology, I'm always trying to find ways of like, making sure that like, if I'm buying like a piece of tech, it doesn't like go obsolete by like the company or whatever that created it. I just saw like in the news, there was Belkin, the company Belkin. They have like this like whole smart home line of like smart outlets and stuff called Wemo. And then they just like sent out emails to all Wemo customers yesterday saying like, yeah, we're just like shutting Wemo down. So like if you bought like these smart plugs from them, they're just going to like stop working. And just having like these like redundant kind of systems, right? So you're not relying on third parties, I guess. The more that I talk about it, I guess the more Bitcoiner it is kind of sounding, right? You're not relying on third party people to, custody your outlets. So yeah, it's just an extension of that, right? Not relying on like a WhatsApp or something to to custody your messages. You can just freely message people.
Yeah,
through
exactly.
This. So
it's
pretty
one of
cool.
those things where you don't realize how useful it is until you need it.
100%. Yeah. I thought this one was really interesting. I wanted to like almost share the entire tweet or read off the entire tweet because like the entire thing is really good. But this is from investor Rick Edelman. He put out, I think he called it a white paper the other day on just his thoughts and his advice for investing in Bitcoin and like as a financial advisor, maybe what you should, recommend to your clients for investing. And he's sort of outlining that the 60-40 kind of stock bond recommendation that's been typical of kind of forever is kind of basically just bad. And you should replace that 40% bond with 40% Bitcoin, depending on your risk tolerance. So I'm just going to read off his tweet here because I think the entire image, I guess it's like a slide from like a slide deck because the whole thing is really good. So he says, the traditional 60-40 stock bond allocation model is dead. This is due to unprecedented rates of longevity brought about by remarkable advances in exponential technologies. After 39 years in the financial services field, I'm announcing for the first time the correct crypto allocation. Conservative investors should now have a 10% crypto allocation. Moderate clients should place 25% of their portfolios in crypto, and aggressive clients should allocate 40% of their investments to crypto. Owning crypto is no longer a speculative position. Failing to do so is. A passive market-weighted index comprised of all asset classes would have 3% in crypto, so an investor who lacks crypto is now effectively shorting it. There's no logic to omitting an asset that's outperformed all others for 15 consecutive years and is widely projected to continue doing so for the next decade or more. I'll stop there, but that's really good.
Yeah. This is really good. It's like, even if you don't believe in the ethos and the fundamentals and like what Bitcoin is trying to achieve, like you cannot ignore the numbers. And if you're doing so, like you're failing at your job.
Yeah, that's literally what he says in that final thing here. It says the real question is, are you a fiduciary serving your client's best interests, or are you simply an order taker avoiding difficult conversations?
Yeah.
Like, shots fired. But I thought that was really good. I wanted to highlight that.
Well, I believe it's in my best fiduciary duty to myself to be holding like 90% in Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah,
funny.
same.
Yeah, when friends and family ask me, they're like, how much of your savings or whatever do you hold in Bitcoin? I'm like, well, pretty much all of it. So.
Most of it, yeah. Yeah, that's how I am. It's like saving in Bitcoin. That's like how I think about it, right? I have like a little emergency fund in dollars, but like otherwise I'm saving in Bitcoin. Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah. You put this one in here, so I'll let you take it.
Yeah, this one is cool. So this one's about Ego Death Capital. I first learned about them through Jeff Booth. He's a Canadian. And honestly, one of the like main people who I listened to when I first started learning about Bitcoin. I just like really liked his perspective. He's like very much a tech guy, but came to the conclusion that like Bitcoin, again, is like in the fiduciary duty of everybody. And his whole thing is about like technology should make things cheaper, but like our world is getting more expensive and those things just don't align. Anyway, that's a little tangent. But he's a founding partner at Ego Death Capital, along with some other big names like Preston Pish, Lynn Alden, Nico Lechuga, and Andy Pitt. And they just closed a $100 million second fund to invest in Bitcoin-focused software companies. So I think this is the largest Bitcoin-only venture round in history. They're really targeting companies that have between $1 and $3 million in revenue, and their growth is really constrained by how much capital they have on hand, so they're not able to grow just because they don't have money to spend. Yeah, so they take like a different approach. They're not investing in hardware, mining, or crypto tokens, and they're really focused on Bitcoin native software businesses. So if you've heard of Relay, Roxum, Simple Proof, companies like this, those are the companies they're backing. And they just really believe that people should probably not invest in like crypto token projects. They would have been better holding on to Bitcoin instead of making speculative bets on these projects. So yeah, it'll be cool. They think that like Bitcoin based companies can outperform Bitcoin itself by generating cash flow in Bitcoin. So some pretty huge bets will come from this, I'm sure.
Yeah, we love seeing this much capital going into Bitcoin. I think like traditionally a lot of capital has just flown into like crypto and not really but Bitcoin, but it's just Bitcoin is just eating everything up this past few years. So great to see some money going into the space.
Yeah. And the last thing that we can talk about, I just saw this. US House is announcing a crypto week starting next week. So from, I think it's like a Monday to Friday thing. Basically, this is like a major legislative push that they're focusing on digital assets. So they're going to review the 3 key bills, obviously the Clarity Act we've talked about, the Genius Act, and one that I wasn't actually super familiar with, the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. So these are really like the bills that are going to shape the regulatory framework for crypto in the US. But yeah, pretty cool. So the CBDC one is really about, what does it say? It's prohibiting the Federal Reserve banks from offering certain products or services directly to an individual, to prohibit the use of central bank digital currency for monetary policy and for other purposes.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing about it too.
Mm-hmm.
Really great to hear though. You know, Trump campaigned on the fact that he wouldn't be like allowing CBDCs, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you need them to be enacted into laws to be, to have a lot of weight, because otherwise, like, Trump is gone in 4 years and then somebody else comes in and suddenly enacts CBDCs, right? You can't hold too much to those types of promises. So yeah, the fact that it's potentially being codified, that's really good news. So we'll have a lot to talk about next week, I guess.
We will. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up for the week. We talked about it already at the top of the show, but one last reminder to go vote. SIP31 voting, I think, ends on Sunday based on the Bitcoin block times. So go vote. stx.eco, ECO is the website. Yeah, and I think next week we'll also be able to talk about the final results. And I think once the vote ends, it looks like it's going to pass. It's kind of the beginning, like a new beginning almost. Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of work, I think, that needs to be done to start these entities and, kickstart a lot of these projects that were proposed. So it's going to be a really exciting time for the ecosystem, and we'll be covering it all every week. So
awesome. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Another good show, another week that's good for Bitcoin. So we will see you guys next Friday, 2 p.m.
Sounds good. Have a good weekend, y'all. Thank you for listening. We record Good for Bitcoin live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on X. Please follow us at Trust Machines Co. if you would like to listen and engage with us live. Visit us at trustmachines.co for all the latest Bitcoin news. We'll see you next week.